Alara's eyes snapped open in the darkness of her tomb, and the first thing she felt wasn't confusion. It was rage so primal, so absolute, that the stone coffin around her cracked like an eggshell. The sound echoed through centuries of silence. Dust and decay filled her lungs, but she didn't cough, didn't choke. Her body moved with strength that shouldn't exist, muscles coiling beneath skin that tingled with something electric, something alive and furious. She sat up, and the stone lid shattered. Fragments rained down around her in the pitch black, and Alara stared at her hands. They were small, child-sized, but they glowed with a soft silver light that pulsed in rhythm with her thundering heart. What am I? The question barely formed before memories slammed into her like physical blows. A grand hall, marble floors stained red. Her mother's voice, hoarse from screaming, begging for mercy that would never come. And him, the Alpha King Theron, beautiful and terrible, his golden eyes cold as he raised the silver blade. "The prophecy cannot stand," he'd said. "An Omega child who will end my bloodline? I think not." She'd been 18 months old, too young to shift, too young to fight, too young to understand why the most powerful Alpha in the realm wanted her dead. The blade had fallen. Alara pressed her palms against her temples, trying to stop the flood of images. But they kept coming. Her father's roar of anguish, the pack house burning, bodies everywhere. All because of her. All because some ancient seer had whispered words about an Omega child born under a blood moon. But I died. She remembered dying, remembered the cold spreading through her tiny body, her mother's tears falling on her face, the light fading. So why was she here? Alara looked around what must have been her burial chamber. The walls were carved with symbols she recognized from her childhood. The old language, the sacred marks of the Moon Valley pack. Her home. But the stone was weathered beyond anything she remembered. Centuries of erosion had softened the edges. Moss crept through cracks. The air tasted wrong, ancient and stale. She climbed from the broken coffin on legs that trembled but held. Her dress, what remained of it, hung in tatters around her small frame. She should have been cold, should have been terrified. Instead, power hummed through her veins like electricity seeking ground. When her bare feet touched the chamber floor, the symbols on the walls flared to life. Blue-white light raced along the carvings, illuminating everything. The chamber was larger than she'd thought, and at its center was a stone altar with words carved deep. "Here lies Alara Moon, Omega child of prophecy. May her spirit find peace in the arms of the moon goddess." "Peace," Alara whispered, and her voice didn't sound like a child's. It resonated with something older, something that made the air itself vibrate. "There is no peace." The rage came again, hotter this time. It built in her chest like a living thing, expanding until she couldn't contain it. Her skin began to glow brighter. The symbols on the walls pulsed faster, matching her heartbeat. "How long have I been dead?" The question burned through her confusion. She needed answers, needed to understand what she'd become, because this wasn't death. This was something else entirely. Alara moved toward what looked like a doorway, half collapsed with age. She had to crawl through the debris, squeezing past fallen stones that should have been too heavy for a child to move. But when she pushed, they shifted easily, too easily. The tunnel beyond was long and winding, leading upward. She followed it, driven by instinct and that relentless fury that wouldn't let her rest. Every few feet, more of the old symbols glowed as she passed, as if welcoming her back to life, or warning her. The air grew fresher. She could smell earth and pine and something else. Wolves. Multiple scents, none of them familiar. Her steps quickened. The tunnel opened into what must have been a natural cave system, and finally, blessedly, she saw moonlight filtering through an opening ahead. Alara ran. She burst from the cave into a forest that stole her breath. The trees were massive, older than anything she remembered. The moon hung full and heavy in the sky, its light painting everything silver. And the scents, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, marked this territory as packland. But not her packland. The markers were wrong, the boundaries different. Where was she? When was she? A twig snapped behind her. Alara spun, and 3 young wolves emerged from the shadows. They were in human form, probably late teens, wearing clothes that looked bizarre to her eyes. Strange fabrics, odd cuts, nothing like what her pack had worn. They stared at her. She stared back. "Moon goddess," one of them breathed, a girl with dark hair and wide eyes. "What is she?" "I don't know," the boy beside her whispered, "but my wolf is terrified." The third one, another boy with a scar across his jaw, took a step back. "The power coming off her? I've never felt anything like it. It's ancient." Ilara tried to speak, but her throat closed. The rage inside her swelled again, responding to their fear, feeding on it. She could feel their wolves beneath their skin, whimpering and trembling, feel the way their bodies wanted to submit, to bow, to bare their throats to something greater than themselves. "Who are you?" the girl managed. Ilara. Her voice came out wrong again, layered with harmonics that didn't belong to any wolf she'd ever known. "Where is the Moon Valley Pack?" The three exchanged glances. "There hasn't been a Moon Valley Pack for centuries," the scarred boy said carefully. "Not since the Great Purge, when Alpha King Theron, the name ripped from her throat like a curse." "He's alive? Alive?" The girl laughed, but it sounded brittle. "He's immortal. He's ruled for 500 years. Everyone knows that. 500 years. The words hit Ilara like another blade, stealing whatever control she'd managed to grasp. 500 years. She'd been dead for 500 years, and he still lived, still ruled, still drew breath while her mother, her father, her entire pack rotted in graves. The rage exploded. It came from somewhere deep inside her, from that place where power had been building and building with nowhere to go. Silver light erupted from her skin, brighter than the moon, brighter than anything in nature. The three wolves screamed and threw up their arms, but it was too late. The shockwave hit them first, sending them flying backward into trees with bone-cracking force. Then it spread outward, tearing through the forest like a physical thing. Trees bent and snapped, the ground heaved, boulders cracked. Animals fled in every direction, their terror shrieks filling the night. Ilara stood at the center of the destruction, watching it spread, unable to stop it. The power kept coming, kept pouring out of her in waves that reshaped the landscape. She tried to pull it back, but she didn't know how, didn't understand what she was or what she'd become. Finally, blessedly, the world went dark. She felt herself falling, felt the cold earth rise to meet her. Her last conscious thought was of Theron's face, of his golden eyes watching her die. "I'm coming for you." Then there was nothing but silence. And in that silence, in the space between consciousness and oblivion, a voice whispered through her mind. It was feminine and ancient, amused and knowing. "You were never meant to die, little Omega. You were meant to evolve." Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. Pain dragged Ilara back to consciousness. Not physical pain. Her body felt strangely whole, humming with that same electric power. But her mind ached, stuffed too full of images and sensations that didn't belong to her. She opened her eyes to white walls and the sharp scent of antiseptic mixed with wolf. Medical facility. Pack medical facility, judging by the underlying territorial markers woven into every surface. And chains. Heavy silver chains wrapped around her wrists, ankles, and chest, bolting her to a reinforced metal table. Ilara stared at them for a long moment, feeling the burn of silver against her skin. It should have weakened her, should have made her drowsy and compliant like it did to all wolves. Instead, it just made her angry. She pulled. The chains snapped like thread, metal links exploding across the room with sharp pinging sounds. Ilara sat up, brushing fragments of silver from her arms. The burns on her skin healed as she watched, pink flesh turning smooth and unmarked in seconds. "Well," a deep voice said from the doorway. "That's unfortunate." Ilara's head whipped around. A man stood there, tall and broad-shouldered, probably in his mid-30s. His dark hair was pulled back from a face that would have been handsome if not for the 3 parallel scars running from temple to jaw on the left side. His eyes were storm gray and hard, carrying the weight of someone who'd seen too much violence and survived it anyway. Alpha. Every line of his body screamed dominance and power, though nothing like what she felt thrumming through her own veins. "Those chains cost a fortune," he continued, stepping into the room. He moved like a fighter, weight balanced, ready for anything. "Imported silver, blessed by 3 different moon shamans, supposed to hold a rogue alpha in full rage." "I'm not a rogue alpha." Alara's voice still carried those strange harmonics, making the air shimmer. You're something we don't have a name for." The alpha stopped a careful distance away, close enough to strike if needed, but far enough to dodge if she exploded again. "Smart. You destroyed half a forest and knocked out 3 of my scouts. My trackers say the epicenter of the blast was an ancient burial site." His gray eyes pinned her in place. "The Moon Valley Pack burial site." Alara's breath caught. "You know about my pack." "Everyone knows about Moon Valley. It's a ghost story we tell our pups." He crossed his arms. "The pack that defied Alpha King Theron and paid the price. The pack he wiped out 500 years ago, down to the last child." His gaze dropped to her small form. "Or so we thought." Alara, she slid off the table, her bare feet cold against the tile floor. Someone had given her clean clothes, soft pants, and a tunic that hung loose on her child's body. "My name is Alara Moon." The alpha went very still. "The Omega child, the prophecy. You know about that too?" "Like I said, ghost story." But something shifted in his expression. A crack in that hard mask. "I'm Kale Nightshade, alpha of Shadow Ridge Pack, and if you really are who you claim to be, then we need to talk, now." He led her through corridors that smelled of pack, dozens of wolves living in close quarters, their scents layered and intermingled. Some of them peeked out of doorways as they passed, their eyes going wide before they quickly ducked back inside, fear and curiosity in equal measure. Kale's office was sparse and functional, dominated by a scarred wooden desk covered in maps and reports. He gestured to a chair, but Alara remained standing. She felt too restless, too full of energy that needed somewhere to go. "Tell me what happened," Kale said, leaning against his desk. "All of it." So she did. The fragments she remembered, Theron's golden eyes, her mother's screams, the blade. Waking up in the tomb, the rage that wouldn't stop building, the explosion she couldn't control. Kale listened without interrupting, his expression growing darker with every word. 500 years, Alara finished. "You said Theron has ruled for 500 years. How is that possible? Even the strongest alpha doesn't live past 200. Theron isn't just an alpha anymore." Kale's voice went flat, emotionless, but she could smell the rage underneath. Shortly after the Moon Valley Purge, he discovered something. Blood magic. Dark, twisted magic that lets him steal life force from other wolves. He paused. "Specifically from Omega children." The room tilted. Alara grabbed the edge of the desk to steady herself. "Every 10 years, Kyle continued, he demands tribute from every pack on the continent. Young Omegas between the ages of 5 and 15. They're taken to his fortress in the northern wastes, and they're never seen again." His jaw clenched. "The packs that refuse are annihilated, just like Moon Valley. He's wiped out 17 packs in the last 5 centuries. 17 bloodlines erased from existence. And the others just comply?" The rage was building again, hot and vicious. "They hand over their children? What choice do we have?" The words came out harsh. "He has an army of 10,000 wolves, elite fighters who've trained for centuries, who drink the blood of conquered packs to increase their strength. He has dark shamans who can curse entire territories. He has—" Kale stopped, something raw flickering across his face. "He has my sister." Alara looked at him sharply. 20 years ago, Kale said quietly. "She was 12, Omega, gentle, smart as hell, loved to paint." His hands curled into fists. "I tried to hide her, smuggled her out of pack lands, sent her to a human city where his reach couldn't find her. But he has spies everywhere. They dragged her back in chains while I watched, powerless to stop them. Is she alive? I don't know. None of them come back. We don't know what he does with them, just that he needs them to maintain his immortality." Kyle's gray eyes met hers, and they burned with barely contained fury. "So yes, little Omega, we comply, because the alternative is watching our entire pack burn." The weight of it settled over Ilara like a shroud. 500 years of this. 500 years of children stolen, families torn apart, packs living in fear of a tyrant who couldn't die. Because of her. No, because of the prophecy about her. He killed me because some seer said an Omega child would end his bloodline's reign. Her voice shook, and because of that, hundreds of children have died in my place. That's not on you. Kyle's tone gentled slightly. You were a baby. You didn't choose any of this. But it felt like her fault anyway. It felt like every child's scream echoed with her mother's voice, every death a reflection of her own. The flashback hit without warning. One moment, Ilara was standing in Kale's office, and the next, she was somewhere else entirely. A grand throne room with vaulted ceilings and marble floors. She saw it through different eyes, from a different height. Adult eyes, adult height, her mother's eyes. You cannot do this, Theron. Her mother's voice, but Ilara felt the words in her own throat. The prophecy is not a threat. It's a promise of balance. The moon goddess does not gift power to destroy, but to restore. The goddess abandoned us long ago. Theron's voice, younger but no less cruel. He sat on his throne like a king already, though the previous Alpha King still lived, for now. I make my own destiny, and I will not have my bloodline ended by an Omega whelp who hasn't even learned to shift. She is true Luna. Her mother's hands, Ilara could see them now, could feel them trembling, rested on her swollen belly. 8 months pregnant, so close to Ilara's birth. Born of celestial power, marked by the goddess herself. You cannot kill what is divine. Watch me. The vision shifted, days later, her mother running through corridors, cradling infant Ilara against her chest, blood everywhere, screams behind them. The pack house burning. Please, her mother sobbed, stumbling into what looked like a sacred chamber. Ancient symbols covered every surface, glowing with lunar light. Please, goddess, save my daughter. Take my power, take my life, but save her. She laid baby Ilara on an altar, pressed her hands to the stone. The symbols flared brighter, so bright they seared Ilara's vision even through the memory. Let her sleep, her mother whispered. Let her hibernate and evolve until she's strong enough to face him, until she's powerful enough to end what he began. Magic poured from her mother in waves, silver and gold and blinding white. It wrapped around infant Ilara like a cocoon, like a shell of pure celestial energy. The baby's eyes closed, her breathing slowed, her tiny body went still as the power sank into her skin, into her bones, into her very soul. True Luna powers cannot be stolen, her mother gasped, growing weaker as the spell consumed her. Only inherited, only passed from mother to daughter through love and sacrifice. She pressed a kiss to baby Ilara's forehead. Grow strong, my darling, grow powerful, and when you wake, make him pay for every drop of innocent blood he's spilled. The vision shattered. Ilara gasped, stumbling backward. Kale caught her before she fell, his strong hands gripping her shoulders. What happened? He demanded. Your eyes, they were glowing. My mother. The words came out choked. She didn't just hide me, she gave me everything, her power, her title, her divine connection to the moon goddess. Ilara looked up at Kale, and she knew her eyes must be blazing with that silver light. I'm not just an Omega who survived. I'm true Luna, the first one in 500 years. Kale's expression shifted through shock, disbelief, and finally something that might have been hope. True Luna, he repeated, like in the ancient texts, celestial wolves blessed by the goddess herself, queens who could command the moon's power. His grip tightened. If that's true, if you really inherited those powers, then Theron was right to fear the prophecy. Ilara pulled away from him, looking down at her small hands. They glowed softly, pulsing with power that felt both foreign and intimately familiar. Her mother's power. 500 years of hibernation, absorbing and evolving, transforming an Omega child into something unprecedented, something that could stand against an immortal tyrant. He killed my mother to steal her celestial power, Ilara said. But the magic backfired. He got nothing, and I got everything. She looked up at Cole, and for the first time since waking, She felt something other than rage. She felt purpose. For 5 centuries I've been evolving, growing stronger while he stole the lives of innocent children to maintain his stolen immortality. And now you're awake, Kale said slowly. Now I'm awake. The power surged through her, responding to her emotions, her determination. The air around them began to shimmer. And every Omega child he's taken, every pack he's destroyed, every drop of blood he's spilled, I'm going to make him answer for all of it. Kale studied her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he dropped to one knee. Shadow Ridge Pack is yours to command, True Luna, he said. We've waited 500 years for someone strong enough to stand against the Devil King. If you really are what you claim, then we'll follow you into hell itself. Ilara looked down at this scarred, battle-hardened alpha kneeling before a child's body, and something inside her shifted. She wasn't that helpless infant anymore. She wasn't even just Ilara Moon, Omega daughter of a destroyed pack. She was something new, something powerful, something Theron should have made sure stayed dead. Wanting to see what would happen next? Subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 3. The training grounds behind Shadow Ridge's main compound looked like a war zone. Scorched earth, shattered boulders, trees stripped bare of bark and leaves, all from 3 days of Ilara trying to control powers she didn't understand. Again, Kale called from his position 30 yards away, arms crossed over his chest. But this time, don't level the entire forest. Ilara gritted her teeth. Her body might be that of a child, but exhaustion felt the same, regardless of age. Sweat plastered her dark hair to her forehead, and her muscles trembled from hours of practice. Still, she raised her hands and reached for that well of power inside her. It responded instantly, eagerly, flooding through her veins like liquid silver. The air around her began to shimmer and crack with energy. She focused on the target Kale had set up, a reinforced wooden post wrapped in blessed chains. Control it, she told herself. Direct it. Don't just explode. The power built and built, pressure mounting behind her sternum. She shaped it, compressed it, tried to funnel it into a single directed blast. The explosion took out the target, the hill behind it, and 3 additional trees. Damn it, Ilara shouted, watching debris rain down. A few pack members who'd been watching from a safe distance scattered. She couldn't blame them. She was a walking disaster. Kale approached, stepping over smoking earth. His expression remained neutral, but she'd learned to read the tension in his shoulders. He was worried about her, about what she could become if she couldn't learn control. You're fighting it, he said, trying to force the power into shapes it doesn't want to take. I have to control it somehow. Ilara's voice cracked. Or I'm useless. Worse than useless, I'm dangerous. You think Theron controls his power through force? Kale shook his head. Dark magic works differently, but the principle is the same. You don't dominate power. You flow with it, guide it. That's easy for you to say. You've had your whole life to learn control. She gestured at her child's body. I've had 3 days and 0 instruction manual. Something almost like a smile flickered across Kale's scarred face. Fair point. He studied her for a moment. What do you feel when the power comes? Rage, always rage. Ilara wrapped her arms around herself. It's like there's this furnace inside me, and every time I remember what Theron did, what he's still doing, it just burns hotter. Then maybe that's the problem. You're running on pure emotion with no filter. Kale moved closer, and she noticed again how careful he was around her, like she might detonate at any moment. True Luna powers aren't meant to be weapons of destruction. From what the old texts say, they're about balance, creation as much as destruction. The old texts don't explain how to use them. No, Kyle agreed, but they mention other abilities, things beyond raw power. He paused. Can you sense us? The pack members watching? Ilara closed her eyes and reached out with that strange new awareness she'd been trying to ignore. Immediately she felt them, dozens of wolves scattered throughout the compound. But it wasn't just their physical presence. She could sense their emotions, their thoughts pressing against her mind like whispers. Dangerous? Too dangerous? Could she really be true Luna? My daughter is the same age. Goddess, protect us. Alara's eyes snapped open. I can hear them. Not words exactly, but feelings, thoughts. She looked at Kale. I can hear you too. You're thinking about your sister, wondering if I'm strong enough to... She stopped, seeing the flash of pain cross his face. Sorry, she muttered. I'm still learning what's intrusive and what's not. It's fine. But his voice had gone rough. What else can you sense? Alara reached out again, pushing past the surface thoughts and emotions. The world shifted, colors bleeding into something more. She gasped. Threads. Thousands of shimmering threads, visible only to whatever new sight she'd developed. They connected wolves to each other, glowing lines of fate and bond. Family ties glowed gold. Pack bonds shimmered silver. Friendships showed as soft blue threads. And there, O goddess, mate bonds blazed brilliant white, so bright they almost hurt to look at. I can see connections, Alara breathed, between people, between wolves. She turned to Coil, following the threads that radiated from him. Gold to his parents, long dead. Silver to his pack, strong and numerous. Blue to friends and trusted allies. And one white thread, beautiful and terrible, that ended in a jagged cut. The severed edge pulsed with old pain, reaching toward nothing. You lost your mate, she said softly. Kale went rigid. What? I can see it, the bond. It's cut, but it's still there, still reaching for something that's gone. Alara met his gray eyes. I'm sorry. For a long moment, he didn't speak. When he finally did, his voice was barely above a whisper. Her name was Sarah. We bonded young, against my father's wishes. He wanted me to make a political match. A bitter smile. We had 3 years. Then Theron's enforcers came for Omega tributes, and she threw herself in front of a child to protect them. The enforcer's blade went through her heart. The grief in his words made Alara's chest ache. How long ago? 15 years. Kyle's hands clenched into fists. So yes, little Omega. I want to use your power to overthrow Theron. I want to see him bleed for every life he's stolen, every bond he's severed, every child he's murdered. And if you think that makes our alliance built on mistrust and revenge, you're absolutely right. The honesty of it stole her breath. No pretense, no noble speeches about justice or righteousness, just raw, honest rage that mirrored her own. Good, Alara said. I don't trust noble intentions, but I trust revenge. I understand revenge. Something passed between them then, an acknowledgement of shared purpose even if their reasons differed. Kale nodded once, then every wolf in the compound started howling. The sound raised goosebumps on Alara's arms. Not the casual communication howls she'd heard over the past few days, but alarm calls, warning calls. Kale's entire demeanor shifted, the grieving mate replaced by the battle-hardened alpha in a heartbeat. Intruders, north border. He looked at Alara. Stay here. Not a chance. You can't control... I'm not hiding while your pack fights. Alara's power flared in response to her determination, making the air crackle. Besides, you said it yourself. I need practice. Kale looked like he wanted to argue, but more howls echoed through the compound. Closer now. He cursed and shifted, bones cracking and reforming until a massive black wolf stood before her. His gray eyes met hers once, then he took off running. Alara followed, her small legs somehow keeping pace. The power inside her seemed to enhance everything, her speed, her strength, her senses. She could smell them now, the intruders. 3 wolves, all carrying the scent of Northwaste territory. Theron's wolves. They reached the north clearing just as Kale's fighters engaged. Shadow Ridge wolves poured from the tree line, forming a defensive perimeter, and there, in the center, stood 3 massive wolves in human form. 2 were standard enforcers, big, brutal, scarred from countless battles. But the third made Alara's heart stop. He was tall and broad-shouldered, probably in his late 20s, with dark hair and eyes that burned with golden fire. Theron's eyes. But his face, goddess, his face. She knew that face from her fractured memories, knew those sharp cheekbones, that strong jaw, those features that would have been beautiful if not for the cruel set of his mouth. Her father's face. No, not her father, but close, So close. Shadow Ridge Pack, the man said, his voice carrying across the clearing with Alpha Command. I am Commander Darius, first enforcer of Alpha King Theron. We've detected unusual power signatures in this territory. You will surrender whoever is responsible for... He stopped mid-sentence, his golden eyes landing on Alara. The world seemed to freeze. Darius stared at her with an expression she couldn't read. Shock, recognition, something deeper and more primal. His wolves tensed, sensing their commander's reaction. And Alara, staring back at this man who wore her father's face like a mask, felt her power surge in response to her racing emotions. She could see his threads too, gold connections to, oh goddess, to Theron. The bonds of adoption, of forced family, glowing with dark undertones. Silver threads to the Northwaste wolves. Loyalty built on fear and indoctrination. And one thread, so faint she almost missed it, that reached toward her. A family bond, barely alive, strangled by dark magic but still there, still real. You, Darius breathed. You're impossible, Alara finished. I know, I died. You probably heard the story. His face hardened. Moon Valley Omega Child, the prophecy. His hand moved to the sword at his hip. My father warned me you might not be truly dead. That ancient magic might have preserved you. Your father? The words tasted like poison. Theron isn't your father. He raised me, saved me from the ruins of... He killed our parents. The power exploded from Alara without warning, her control shredding under the weight of recognition and rage. He murdered our pack, and he kept you alive to use as a weapon. The blast hit Darius like a physical force, sending him flying backward. His enforcers lunged forward, but Kale's wolves intercepted them. The clearing erupted into chaos, snarling, snapping, the meaty sound of bodies colliding. But Alara's focus stayed locked on Darius as he struggled to his feet, blood trickling from his nose. Their eyes met across the battlefield, and she reached for him with her new abilities, not to hurt, but to connect, to pull. She ripped into his mind like tearing through fabric. Memories flooded through the connection, not her memories this time, but his. A little boy, maybe 4 years old, hiding in a cellar while screams echoed above. His mother shoving him down the stairs, her face pale with terror. Stay quiet, she whispered. No matter what you hear, stay quiet. Then darkness. Smoke. When he finally climbed out, the pack house was ash. Bodies everywhere. And a golden-eyed alpha standing in the center of the destruction, beautiful and terrible. Well, Theron said, noticing the child. What do we have here? A survivor. He crouched down, studying the boy with calculated interest. You have your father's eyes, Moon Valley Alpha blood, strong bloodline. A smile that promised nothing good. You'll do nicely. More memories, faster now. Years of training, brutal and unforgiving. Theron's voice always there, always molding, shaping, rewriting history. Your pack was weak. They died because they defied me. Your parents abandoned you. I saved you. You are my son now, my weapon, my legacy. Until the boy believed it. Until Darius Moon became Darius Theron, commander of the Northwaste, most loyal son of the Devil King. The connection shattered, and both Alara and Darius gasped as they were thrown back into their own minds. He stared at her with wild eyes, his hand pressed to his temple. That's not... You're lying. You know I'm not. Alara's voice shook. You felt it. The truth under all his lies. She took a step toward him. He killed our parents, Darius. He killed our entire pack. And he kept you alive because alpha blood is rare. And he needed a weapon he could control. No, but the word came out weak, uncertain. Your name is Darius Moon, Alara pressed. You had a mother who died protecting you, a father who fought 20 wolves trying to reach his family, and a baby sister who was supposed to die, but didn't. Darius stumbled backward, his golden eyes, their father's eyes, reflecting too many emotions to name. Behind him, his enforcers had subdued several Shadow Ridge wolves, waiting for his command. Commander! One of them growled. Orders? Darius looked at his wolves, then at Alara, then at his own shaking hands. We're leaving, he said hoarsely. But the power signature, We're leaving." The command came out with Alpha Force, and his enforcers immediately complied. They disengaged from the fight, backing toward the tree line with weapons still drawn. Darius met Alara's eyes one last time. She could see the war raging behind them, centuries of indoctrination against a few moments of impossible truth. "This isn't over," he said. Then they were gone, disappearing into the forest like ghosts. Alara collapsed to her knees, shaking from the power expenditure and the weight of what she'd just discovered. Kale shifted back to human form and approached cautiously. "What the hell was that?" he demanded. "Why did you let him go?" "Because he's my brother," Alara whispered. "Theron's most loyal enforcer is my brother, and he has no idea who he really is. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 4. The Moon Temple had stood for 3,000 years before Theron's reign. Now it lay in ruins, columns toppled like broken teeth, walls crumbled to rubble and dust. Vines strangled what remained, nature slowly reclaiming what wolves had abandoned. Alara stood at the entrance, feeling the weight of centuries pressing down on sacred ground. The power here was different from what lived inside her. Older, quieter, but no less potent. It hummed through the stone, through the earth itself. "Are you sure about this?" Kale asked beside her. He'd been tense since they left Shadow Ridge 2 days ago, constantly scanning for threats. Darius's retreat had unsettled him. The priestesses were all supposed to be dead. Theron made sure of it. The old wolf who gave us directions seemed pretty certain. Alara picked her way through fallen stones, following a pull she couldn't explain. He said the last priestess went mad after Theron's purge, but she still comes here every full moon. Great. We're trusting the word of a mad priestess. "You have a better plan for understanding what I am?" Alara shot back. Kale fell silent. They both knew the answer. 3 weeks had passed since Alara's awakening, and her control remained dangerously unstable. Yesterday she'd accidentally frozen an entire stream solid while trying to wash her face. The ice hadn't melted for 6 hours. They moved deeper into the ruins, following a path that seemed to remember itself under Alara's feet. The stones glowed faintly where she stepped, responding to something in her blood. Ancient recognition. "There," Kale said, pointing. At the temple's heart, where the altar must have stood, a fire burned. Impossible, considering there was no fuel, no smoke, just silver flames dancing in empty air. And beside it sat a woman. She was ancient, skin like weathered parchment stretched over bird bone. Her eyes were milky white, blind or close to it, but they tracked Alara's approach with unsettling precision. She wore robes that might have been white once, but were now gray with age and grime. "Finally," the old woman said, her voice surprisingly strong. "I've been waiting 500 years for you to wake up, girl. Took you long enough." Alara stopped a few feet away, Kale's hand ready on his blade. "You know who I am?" "Of course I know." The priestess cackled, the sound like breaking glass. "I was there the night your mother brought you to the temple, helped her cast the preservation spell that locked you in that tomb. Those blind eyes seemed to see straight through her. I'm Priestess Mara, last of the Moon Temple, last keeper of the prophecies. And you, little Omega, are the worst news this world has seen in centuries." "Comforting," Kale muttered. Mara ignored him, her focus entirely on Alara. "Come closer. Let me feel what you've become." Alara stepped forward, and the priestess reached out with gnarled hands. They were cold when they touched her face, fingers tracing her features like reading Braille. The moment of contact sent a shock through Alara's system. Power, recognizing power, ancient magic meeting, divine evolution. Mara gasped. "Blessed moon, you absorbed it all. Every drop of your mother's true Luna essence." She pulled her hands back, shaking. "You're not just powerful, girl. You're apocalyptic. I need to know what I'm supposed to do with this power." Alara's voice came out steadier than she felt. "The prophecy that started everything. I need to hear all of it." "Ah, yes, the prophecy." Mara settled back by her impossible fire, gesturing for them to sit. "The one Theron has feared for 5 centuries. The one he murdered you to prevent." She closed her blind eyes. "I'll tell you, but understand this. Prophecies are tricky things. They tell you what could be, not what must be. The future is written in water, girl. It shifts with every choice. Just tell us, Kale said impatiently. Mara's expression hardened. Patience, young alpha. Prophecy requires proper respect. She began to rock, her voice taking on a rhythmic quality. 3,000 years ago, when the first true Luna walked among us, she saw the future, saw a time when a wolf would become so drunk on power, so twisted by dark magic, that he'd break the natural order, create an immortal reign that poisoned everything it touched. Alara's breath caught. Theron. Yes, but she also saw the solution. An Omega child, murdered in her innocence, who would sleep in death's embrace for centuries. And when she woke, she would be transformed, the moon's daughter, the alpha killer, the one who ends eternal night. The titles sent chills down Alara's spine. But here's where it gets complicated, Mara continued. The prophecy splits into two paths at the moment of awakening, two possible futures, depending on the choice the moon's daughter makes. She held up one gnarled finger. Path 1, vengeance. She hunts the Alpha King, kills him in rage, destroys his bloodline. Swift, satisfying, complete. And Path 2? Alara asked, though she dreaded the answer. Mara held up a second finger. Salvation. She faces him at the blood moon, uses her true Luna powers to absorb the curse he's created, breaking it properly and freeing all werewolves from its poison. But this path requires the ultimate sacrifice. What sacrifice? Your life, girl. Maybe your soul. The prophecy isn't clear on that part. Mara's blind eyes seemed to bore into her. See, Theron didn't just make himself immortal. He created a curse that's been slowly poisoning every werewolf for 500 years. Haven't you noticed? Shorter lifespans, weaker bloodlines. Fewer true alpha births, the Omega gene dying out. It's all connected to his dark magic, feeding him power while draining it from everyone else. Kale made a choked sound. That's why Sarah died so easily. Why the blade that killed her shouldn't have been lethal. Her wolf was weaker than it should have been. Everyone's wolves are weaker, Mara confirmed. Generation by generation, the curse spreads like rot through a tree. In another 100 years, we'll be no stronger than humans. In 200, we might not be able to shift at all. She leaned forward. And if you kill Theron in rage, little Omega, if you just destroy him without addressing the curse, it shatters. Explosively. The backlash will kill thousands, maybe tens of thousands. Every wolf with weak blood, every Omega, every child. Gone in an instant. The horror of it settled over Alara like a shroud. But if I choose the other path, you face him at the next blood moon, which is in 3 months. You use your true Luna powers to pull the curse from him, to absorb 500 years of dark magic into your own body. And then, Mara shrugged. Then who knows? Maybe you're strong enough to survive it. Maybe you burn from the inside out. Maybe you become something neither wolf nor goddess. The prophecy doesn't say. That's not a choice, Alara said. That's a suicide mission. No, Mara's voice went hard. A choice is exactly what it is. Quick vengeance that serves your rage but kills innocent wolves? Or sacrifice that might save everyone but costs you everything? Welcome to being the moon's daughter, girl. Your mother knew this day would come. That's why she put you in that tomb instead of letting you die properly. Alara stood abruptly, her power crackling around her in visible waves. The ruins shook. Stones that had stood for centuries trembled and cracked. So I was brought back to life just to die again? To be some cosmic sacrifice because Theron's greed poisoned the world? You were brought back to make a choice, Mara corrected. What you do with it is up to you. Some choice. Alara turned away, needing space, needing air. Her small fists clenched so hard her nails drew blood. 3 months to decide between being a murderer or a martyr. Kale followed her outside, leaving Mara by her eternal fire. They walked in silence through the ruins until they reached a collapsed archway that looked out over the valley below. The view was stunning, endless forest, mountains in the distance, the world spread out like a painting. I won't tell you what to choose, Kyle said finally, but I'll tell you this. Revenge feels good in the moment. I know. I've lived on it for 15 years. He stared out at the valley. But it doesn't fill the hole, doesn't bring them back, doesn't fix what's broken. Your mate, Ilara said softly. Sarah, you said an enforcer killed her. During a rebellion, 20 years ago, before I became Alpha. Kyle's voice went rough with memory. A group of Pax tried to stand against Theron's Omega tributes. My father led them. Sarah and I were newly bonded, barely 20. She was a healer, not a fighter, but she couldn't stand by while children were taken. He paused, jaw working. When Theron's enforcers came, she was protecting a group of young Omegas who'd hidden in the healer's den. One of the enforcers found them. He would have killed all 7 children just to prove a point. Kale's hands curled into fists. Sarah threw herself between them and his blade, bought enough time for the children to escape. And you? Ilara asked gently. I was fighting on the front lines. Didn't even know she was in danger until I felt the bond break. His voice cracked. Have you ever had something ripped out of your chest while it's still beating? That's what a mate bond severing feels like. I dropped my weapons, shifted, ran to her. But by the time I got there, she was already gone. Tears tracked down his scarred face, and he didn't bother wiping them away. I wanted to die, would have thrown myself at the enforcers if my father hadn't dragged me away. For months, I was more ghost than wolf. Everyone thought I'd fade, let the mate grief kill me like it kills most of us. But you didn't. No, because Sarah made me promise something before we bonded. She made me swear that if anything happened to her, I'd keep fighting, keep protecting the pack, not let grief turn me into something she wouldn't recognize. Kale finally looked at Ilara. So that's what I've done. For 15 years, I've fought. I've kept Shadow Ridge safe. I've hidden Omegas, defied tributes when I could, survived. But you haven't healed. You don't heal from losing your mate. You just learn to live with the wound. He turned to face her fully. My point is, I chose vengeance. I've spent 15 years planning how to destroy Theron, fantasizing about making him suffer. And I'd still choose it again if given the option. His gray eyes held hers. But you're not me. You have a choice I never had. A chance to actually fix what he broke, instead of just breaking him back. Ilara looked down at her small hands, still glowing faintly with power she didn't ask for. What if I can't do it? What if I choose sacrifice and it's not enough? What if I die for nothing? Then you die trying to save thousands of innocent wolves instead of killing them. Kale's voice gentled. That's more than most of us ever get. The truth of it settled into her bones. She thought about all those children Theron had stolen, all the families torn apart, all the wolves dying young because their bloodlines were poisoned, all because of a prophecy about her. I'm scared, she admitted. I just got my life back. And now I'm supposed to give it up again? I know. And suddenly Kale was close, his hand cupping her face with surprising gentleness. I know you're scared. Hell, I'm terrified. Because somewhere in the last 3 weeks, I started to care about what happens to you. Started to hope that maybe... He stopped, seeming to realize what he'd been about to say. Something shifted in the air between them, something electric and terrifying. Ilara could see his severed mate bond, still reaching toward nothing, could see the new thread, fragile as spider silk, starting to form between them. She jerked back. Don't! Ilara, no. Her power flared, defensive. You can't. We can't. I might have 3 months to live, Kale. 3 months before I either destroy myself saving everyone or become a mass murderer. You can't bond with that. You can't bond with me. I'm not asking to bond. I'm just saying I care. But his expression said it was more than that. Said he'd already started down a path he couldn't turn back from. Then stop caring. The words came out harsher than she intended. I'm not, Sarah. I can't be your second chance at happiness. And you can't be the reason I choose wrong. She stepped further away, putting distance between them. We have 3 months. We need to use them planning how to kill Theron if I choose vengeance, or how to break his curse if I choose sacrifice. Not whatever this is. Kale's face shuddered, the vulnerable moment closing like a door. You're right. This was a mistake. Kale, no, you're absolutely right. He was already walking back toward the ruins. We should head back to Shadow Ridge, start planning. Figure out which path leads to the least amount of death. Ilara watched him go, her chest aching in a way that had nothing to do with prophecies or power, She'd heard him, could see it in the rigid line of his shoulders, the careful way he wasn't looking at her. But she'd also protected him, because if she let herself care, if she let herself bond with anyone when her fate was so uncertain, it would destroy them both. Better to be alone. Better to face whatever came next with no attachments, no complications. Even if alone felt like another kind of death. Mara's voice drifted from the ruins, singing an old song in a language Alara barely remembered. The melody spoke of sacrifice and salvation, of choices that define destinies, of Omega wolves who became legends. 3 months until the blood moon. 3 months to decide if she'd be a destroyer or a savior. 3 months to figure out if the life she'd just regained was worth giving up again. Ilara looked up at the afternoon sun, imagining it replaced by a blood-red moon, imagining herself standing before Theron with power blazing from her skin, ready to make the choice that would define everything. Vengeance or salvation, murder or martyrdom, the moon's daughter or the alpha killer. She closed her eyes and prayed to the goddess for an answer that never came. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 5. The rumors spread like wildfire through the territories. The ghost Omega has risen. Moon Valley's lost child walks again. The prophecy was true. In hidden dens and secret gatherings, wolves whispered the name Ilara Moon, with something they hadn't felt in centuries: hope. Parents clutched their Omega children closer, daring to imagine a future where tributes ended. Alphas who'd bent the knee to Theron for generations began to sharpen their blades and remember what defiance tasted like. In the North Wastes, in his fortress of black stone and blood magic, Alpha King Theron felt that hope like a knife between his ribs. "Find her," he commanded, his voice still beautiful despite the rage beneath it. "Bring her to me, alive, unharmed." The court fell silent. 500 years of rule, and Theron had never wanted an enemy alive before. Commander Darius stood at attention, his face carefully blank. But inside, his mind was chaos. 2 weeks had passed since the Omega child, his sister, impossible as it seemed, had torn through his memories and shattered everything he thought he knew. Every night since, he dreamed of a different past. A mother who loved him. A father who fought for him. A pack that died screaming while he hid in a cellar like a coward. "Commander!" Theron's golden eyes pinned him in place. "You failed to capture her once. Don't fail me again." "Yes, my king." The words tasted like ash. As Darius left the throne room, one of Theron's ancient shamans caught his arm. The old wolf's eyes were clouded with cataracts, but they saw too much. "He's dying," the shaman whispered. "The blood magic is finally consuming him from the inside. He has perhaps 2 months, maybe 3. That's why he needs the girl." A horrible smile. The true Luna essence he thought he'd destroyed. It's the only thing that can save him now. Darius pulled away and kept walking, but the words followed him like ghosts. Shadow Ridge had transformed into a war camp. Wolves from 3 neighboring packs had arrived in secret, drawn by Kale's quiet rebellion and Alara's impossible existence. The compound buzzed with nervous energy, fighters sharpening weapons, scouts reporting Theron's troop movements, healers preparing for casualties they all knew were coming. And at the center of it all, Ilara stood in the training yard, her small form radiating enough power to make the air shimmer. She'd been training for 16 hours straight. Her body should have collapsed from exhaustion, but the true Luna magic sustained her, pushing her past mortal limits. She could control it better now, direct the blasts, shape the energy, even manipulate the elements with focused intent. But control wasn't enough. She needed to be unstoppable. "Again!" she commanded, and 3 of Coil's best fighters launched themselves at her simultaneously. Ilara's hand shot out, an invisible force threw them backward. Before they hit the ground, she'd frozen the moisture in the air around them, creating a cage of ice that held but didn't harm. A flick of her wrist, and the ice shattered into harmless powder. The fighters climbed to their feet, bowing respectfully. Fear and awe warred in their expressions. "Better," Kyle said from his position at the yard's edge. His voice was carefully neutral. Had been for 2 weeks since the Moon Temple, since she'd pushed him away. Alara met his gray eyes and saw the hurt still there, buried under alpha authority and tactical planning. Her chest ached, but she didn't let it show. "We need to talk about the plan," she said. "All of us, now." 30 minutes later, the War Council gathered in Kale's office. Pack alphas, trusted fighters, scouts who knew Theron's territories, and one empty chair, waiting. "We're one short," someone muttered. Then the window exploded inward. Wolves surged to their feet, weapons drawn, as a figure rolled through the shattered glass and came up in a defensive crouch. Golden eyes blazed in a face that still looked too much like Alara's father. "Hello, sister," Darius said. The room erupted, snarls, shouted accusations, the metallic smell of rage flooding the space. Kyle's hand went to his blade. "Wait!" Alara stepped between them and her brother. "Let him speak." "Are you insane?" Kale growled. "He's Theron's. I know who he is." Alara kept her eyes on Darius, but he came alone, unarmed, through a window instead of the front door. She tilted her head. "Why?" Darius straightened slowly, his hands visible and empty. "Because Theron has spies everywhere, and if they knew I was here, we'd all be dead before morning." He looked around the room at the hostile faces. "I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to listen." "You have 60 seconds, Kyle said flatly. "Then I'm throwing you back out that window." "Theron is dying." Darius's words hit like a bomb. The blood magic he's used for 5 centuries is finally consuming him. The Omega essence he stole, it's degrading, poisoning him from the inside. He has maybe 2 months left, 3 at most. Shocked silence. "That's impossible," someone said. "He's immortal." "Nothing is truly immortal. Even dark magic has a price." Darius focused on Alara. "He wants you alive because you're the only thing that can save him. Your true Luna essence, pure, undiluted, straight from the source. If he can steal it during the Blood Moon ritual, he can reset the magic. Buy himself another 500 years. Alara's mind raced. "But the prophecy said you'd end his reign. It didn't specify how." Darius took a careful step forward. "I've spent 2 weeks going through his private archives, reading everything about the magic he used, about what he did to you, to our mother." His voice cracked. "She was true Luna, the real thing, and when he killed her, he tried to steal that power, but it didn't work because true Luna essence can only be inherited, not taken by force. So he got nothing," Alara breathed. "Just empty immortality bought with children's lives." "Exactly, and now it's failing." Darius pulled a folded paper from his jacket. "This is his ritual plan. He needs you at his fortress during the Blood Moon, needs you willing or at least compliant. He'll try to perform a transfer ceremony, pull your essence into himself while you're weakened by whatever drugs or spells he uses." "Then we don't let her anywhere near him," Kale snapped. "We fortify, prepare for his assault, and when he comes, we lose." Darius cut him off. "He has 10,000 trained warriors, dark shamans who can curse entire armies. Even if every pack on the continent united against him, we'd be slaughtered. The only advantage we have is that he wants Alara alive. That makes him vulnerable." Alara stared at the ritual diagram, an idea forming. A terrible, dangerous idea. "What if I let him capture me?" "Absolutely not," Kale snarled. "Listen." Alara's power flared, demanding attention. "What if I surrender? Let him think he's won. Let him bring me to his fortress, set up his ritual, get me exactly where he wants me." She looked up, and her eyes blazed silver. "And then, at the moment he tries to steal my power during the Blood Moon, I reverse it. I take everything, his stolen life force, the curse poisoning all wolves, every drop of dark magic he's hoarded. I pull it all into myself and destroy it from the inside." The room went deathly quiet. "That's suicide?" someone whispered. "No." Darius studied the diagram. "It might actually work. True Luna powers are about balance and purification. If she can absorb the curse and transmute it," he trailed off. "But the strain would be catastrophic. No wolf has ever channeled that much dark magic and survived." "I'm not just any wolf," Alara said. "I've been evolving for 500 years. I absorb my mother's full essence. If anyone can survive it, I can." "And if you can't?" Kyle's voice was rough. If you die in the process, then at least Theron dies with me. The curse breaks, the Omega tributes end, thousands of wolves go free. Ilara met his eyes. Isn't that what we've been fighting for? Not at the cost of your life. The words exploded from Coil with enough force to rattle the windows. He was across the room in 2 strides, gripping her shoulders, his face inches from hers. I won't lose another mate, he said, and the whole room froze. Ilara's breath caught. Kale! My wolf recognized you 3 weeks ago. I've been fighting it, trying to respect your boundaries, trying to be just your ally. His hands trembled against her shoulders. But I can't watch you walk into a death trap without telling you the truth. You're my second chance mate. The bond is already forming whether we want it to or not. Tears burned Ilara's eyes. She could feel it too, that golden thread stretching between them, fragile but growing stronger every day. That's why I have to do this alone. If we bond and I die, then I die too, I know. Kale's thumb brushed her cheek. But if we don't bond and you die, I'll still die, just slower, more painfully. So, stop trying to protect me from a fate that's already written. He's right. Darius's quiet voice cut through the moment. Mate bonds form on their own timeline. You can't stop it any more than you can stop the moon from rising. He looked away. Our parents were true mates. Father told me once that he knew Mother was his the moment he saw her. Said the bond nearly knocked him off his feet. Ilara closed her eyes, feeling the weight of choice pressing down on her. Accept the bond and give Coil another chance at happiness, knowing she might rip it away. Or reject it and condemn them both to half-lives of longing and grief. If I do this, she said slowly, if I accept the bond, you have to promise me something. Anything. If I die breaking the curse, you don't follow me. You live. You lead Shadow Ridge. You help rebuild what Theron destroyed. Her voice hardened. You don't waste the sacrifice. Kyle's jaw clenched, but finally he nodded. I promise. The bond snapped into place like a key turning in a lock. Gold light flared between them, visible to everyone in the room. Ilara gasped as she felt Kale flood into her awareness, his strength, his grief, his fierce protectiveness. And she knew he felt her too, her rage, her determination, her terror hidden under layers of false courage. Well, Darius said dryly, that complicates things. It changes nothing. Ilara pulled back from Coil, though the bond now made distance physically painful. The plan stays the same. I surrender to Theron. Darius takes me in chains to prove his loyalty hasn't wavered. And during the Blood Moon ritual, I take everything he's stolen and end this. And us? Kyle asked. Your mate and your brother? You prepare the real assault. Gather every pack willing to fight. When I reverse the ritual, Theron will be weak, maybe dying. His fortress will be in chaos. That's when you strike. Ilara looked around the room. We end his reign from the inside and outside simultaneously. The Blood Moon is in 6 weeks, Darius said. That's not much time to unite the packs. Then we'd better start now. Kale's alpha command rolled through the room. Send runners to every territory. Tell them the Ghost Omega walks and she's coming for the Devil King. Tell them it's time to choose. Bow to a dying tyrant or stand with the Moon's daughter. The War Council exploded into motion. Wolves dispersed to carry messages, forge alliances, prepare for the battle that would decide the future of their species. Only Ilara, Kale, and Darius remained. 6 weeks, Ilara said quietly. 6 weeks to figure out if I can actually survive absorbing 5 centuries of dark magic. You will, Kyle said with absolute certainty, because I won't accept any other outcome. Stubbornness isn't a magical defense. No, but true Luna powers are. Darius pulled out another paper, this one covered in ancient script. I found something else in Theron's archives, a reference to the original true Luna, the one who made the prophecy. She survived absorbing a curse once before. There's a technique, a way to channel the dark magic through you instead of into you, like a lightning rod. Hope flickered in Ilara's chest. Will you teach me? I'll try, but we only have 6 weeks and I'm not a shaman. Darius's expression softened. Sister, are you sure about this? There has to be another way. There isn't. Ilara straightened her shoulders. This is what I was brought back for. This is why Mother sacrificed herself to save me. She looked between her mate and her brother. These two pieces of a life she'd never thought she'd have. I'm the Alpha Killer, the one who ends eternal night. And in 6 weeks, Theron is going to learn exactly what that means. 6 weeks later, Ilara walked through the gates of Theron's fortress in chains. They were silver, blessed by dark shamans, designed to suppress her power. They burned her skin and made her stumble. But beneath the show of weakness, her true Luna essence blazed bright and hungry. Darius walked beside her, his face carefully blank, his golden eyes cold. To anyone watching, he was the loyal son delivering his king's prize. Wolves lined the path to the throne room, Theron's elite guard, his corrupted shamans, his court of sycophants. They stared at Ilara with curiosity and contempt, seeing only a child in chains. They didn't see the ancient power coiled inside her like a spring. They didn't see the mate bond connecting her to Kale, who waited with an army of rebels at the forest edge. They didn't see the careful control it took to let herself be led like a lamb to slaughter. The throne room doors opened, and there he sat. Alpha King Theron, beautiful and terrible, 500 years of stolen life wrapped around him like a cloak. His golden eyes, the eyes Darius had inherited, the eyes that should have been her father's, locked onto her. He smiled. "The infant Omega who wouldn't die," he said, his voice still rich and commanding despite the sickness she could now smell on him. "You've grown into something interesting." Ilara met his gaze without flinching. Let him see the child's body. Let him underestimate the apocalypse barely contained inside her skin. "I've come to end you," she said simply. Theron laughed, the sound echoing through the vast chamber. "Oh, little Omega, you've come to save me." He stood, descending from his throne with predatory grace. "In 6 days, the blood moon rises, and you're going to give me everything I need to live forever." "We'll see," Ilara said, because in 6 days, one of them would die. And Ilara had spent 500 years preparing for this moment. The Alpha Killer had come home. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like, and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily, and also to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.